The moon is our constant companion in the evening sky, but what if that comforting light is a portal to the unknown? Tonight, we dismantle the official narrative, the staged landings, the impossible engineering, and the chilling reality that our silent companion might be far older and much stranger than we had ever dared to imagine. We never went to the moon. America's $30 billion swindle. This was a book written by Bill Kaisings in 1976. Roughly 25% of the population doesn't believe that we landed on the moon in 1969. And a lot of people believe we did not have the technology to even get to the moon. Whether it was the idea that the US had a space race with the Soviet Union, or a distraction from the Vietnam War, or the impenetrable Van Halen belt, these are just some of the major theories as to why people don't believe it was real. And this is what we will investigate today. We have all heard about the possibility of Stanley Kubric creating the film that was used for the Apollo mission. No tangible evidence of any of that has ever occurred. And only after his death was this speculation put out into the public. If you watch the movie in The Shining, there is a little boy named Danny, and Danny wore an Apollo 11 sweater. And this is why I believe people had this speculation of Stanley Kubrick creating a movie set for the moon landing. Many people speculated that this was a sign from Kubrick of his involvement. The moon landing was supposedly live broadcast by a camera built by Westinghouse Electric using a 10 frames per second slow scan TV, SSTV, which this format fits within narrow radio bandwidth limits. Ground stations displayed the slow scan images on a monitor and refilmed the screen using a standard broadcast camera to convert the to a TV format. We had the technology to put a man on the moon, but we did not have the technology to broadcast it directly. Maybe I will do a separate video on that later. In August of 2008, Mythbusters debunked some of the many physical questions about the moon landing, specifically the shadowing of the pictures within the moon that they took and the physical movements that was filmed on the moon. Watch that episode, it's actually really good. Now, let's take a trip back in time. On May 25th of 1961, JFK proposed the US had a plan to go to the moon. NASA's massive budget for this mission was $25.8 billion. That today would be roughly $309 billion if you're counting inflation. How did this conspiracy of us not going to the moon even start? One man. This man's name was Bill Kaisings. Bill Kaisings created his book in 1976, years after the moon landing. Yes, Bill Kaisings worked for the US Navy and he was a technical writer. However, he did not have an engineering degree background. Before my research, I had no idea what a technical writer even did. So let me educate you for the moment. A technical writer, specifically for rockets, used to get to space. They write manufacturing work plans, launch operating steps, and test guidelines so technicians and engineers build and fly rockets safely. Simple enough. This is what Bill Kaisings did. He was legit when it came to his profession and his abilities. However, did he work on the specific Saturn V rocket that took the American men to the moon? No, he didn't. He was actually an art major and happened to work at the Rocketdyne, a main propulsion contractor for NASA between 1956 and 1963. He was in technical communications, but worked as a technical writer, editor, even a librarian, and a publication manager. He left Rocketdyne in 1963, 6 years before the moon landing and during the early stages of the Saturn V rocket. Kaisings' claim was that the Saturn V rocket only got the astronauts to lower Earth orbit and not to the moon. He believed they launched these rockets while the astronauts were in a secret base in Nevada. Why? For the space race, of course, or maybe a distraction for Vietnam. Now, let's explore the rocket's ability. To get one of these rockets, there is a lot involved. But to start out, in layman's terms, that rocket that took the men to the moons, it took 5 F1 engines. Now the thrust to get us off this giant rock would be variable to the weight of the craft. The F1 rocket engine was the massive power plant used in the first stages of the Saturn V moon rocket. 5 F1 engines clustered together, producing 7.5 million pounds of thrust, making it the most powerful single-chambered liquid propellant engine ever flown. That's astounding. To leave Earth, a rocket's upward push, or thrust, must be greater than its total weight. Engineers measured this with a thrust-to-weight ratio between 1.2 and 1.5 at launch. The exact amount of thrust depends completely on how heavy the rocket is. Well, how heavy is a Saturn V rocket that took us to the moon? 6.2 to 6.5 million pounds with a rocket at 7.5 million pounds of thrust is sufficient for us to get off the Earth and into orbit. The launch was a 3-stage super heavy lift launch vehicle built by NASA. It stood 363 feet tall. It weighed 6.2 million pounds, fully fueled, and generated 7.6 million pounds of thrust at liftoff, according to NASA. Look, the information in this video may be heavy for you, but just wait for this rabbit hole to get even deeper in the next episode. I'm not done yet, but we'll be back. Stay tuned. Thank you for joining me at Beyond the Evidence Room.